Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to Fantasy for the Ages, the show where a father and son, it's not here today, get together and talk about fantasy, science fiction, and other nerdy things we enjoy talking about. This is a book blast episode I'm bringing to you. So I'm going to be sharing my thoughts, my reactions to a book, spoiler light, meaning I'm not going to ruin anything. I'm just going to give you some general vibes of a book, what I thought about it, a little bit of my recommendations regarding it for you. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like it down below. We hope you subscribe to our channel and join all the people who've been finding us lately. It's a lot of fun. And leave a comment down below with any of your thoughts related to what I say. Also in the show notes, all the other ways that you can get in touch with Zach and I, our Discord server, social media, even our Patreon. Thank you, Patreon supporters. We love you. All right, today I'm talking about The Return of the Knights, Book 1 of the Dance of Light series, a fantasy novel by Gregory Contaxis. I just finished this book literally today as I'm recording this. This is Greg's debut novel. Prior to this, I understand he's been working as a professional in the financial investment field. I think managing people's money. If he keeps writing on this level, I predict he'll have a lot of his own money to manage, because this fantasy novel was excellent. Now, I also believe English is a second language for Greg, although I interact with him on Twitter all the time and he's clearly quite fluent. But this book was written in Greek, so I think that's his native language, and then it was translated into English. Sometimes books that are translated from a different language into English, you can tell. There's little issues with the flow, some oddities with phrasing. It lacks some of the charm the author intended. That is not the case here. At no time did any of the writing give me an impression that it had originally been in a different language. This feels completely like it was written in English from the get-go. The writing is really good. So whoever did the translating process earned his or her bucks. Totally. Part of the deal also is that this great writing is backed up with an incredible plot. So when you get quality writing, fantastic plot, smooth translation process, doesn't matter what language the book was written in, you've got some pretty good magic going on. The premise of the story, again, I'm not going to ruin it for you, just a little taste. You enter a world at war, a power struggle that's been going on for decades. The continent we are introduced to had, for generations, been a collection of small kingdoms, but not too long back, they chose to unite under one king. Unfortunately, he turned out to be quite the bastard and was overthrown by one of the other governors of these other previous kingdoms, and everybody got behind that governor as the second king. Unfortunately, the first king's grandson didn't take it real well. And when he got old enough to do something about it, his resentment led him to go on basically a civil war. He chose to try to take the power back for himself. And he's a pretty ruthless dude, as well as it turns out to being quite effective as a tyrannical despot. So as we enter into this story, and a mysterious protagonist, Elliot, who we're going to be following, comes onto the scene, we're in the last moments, potentially, of this long, decades-lasting attempt by our antagonist to take over everything. The queen has literally the enemies at the gates. There's next to nothing we can do. We're going to lose. Oh, and then this guy shows up with a plan. Who is he? Why should anyone listen to him? Can this plan he's spouting actually work? All these things are just the start of the questions that pull you into this story. I appreciated how the author drops us right into the tale, doesn't bore us with a whole bunch of exposition. In fact, kind of leaves us confused a little bit, wondering what's going on, which is the sense of what a lot of people are feeling when Elliot shows up. And then slowly, over the course of the novel, Contaxis brings us up to speed on a backstory, the political climate, some magical and spiritual elements of the world, and revelations of more to the story than even the protagonist knew at the beginning. It's skillfully done, it's good writing, and it draws you in more and more. I also valued that this main character is no Mary Sue. He has mad skills and great training, but there are reasons for that you come to understand. He also had some very natural flaws that play a logical and realistic role in how the story unfolds. This level of genuine nuance to a character is not always pulled off well, but in this book it is. The last thing I'll share about The Return of the Knights is that it feels like a throwback to a simpler time in fantasy. And I do not say that in a negative way at all. It was a refreshing story that doesn't try to bring into it the issues and social complexities of today's world. Some novels are like that these days. A lot of the newest things that are being published by the major publishing houses are like that. It's like they're looking for authors who want to contemporize every fantasy story. This is not it. This is like fantasy fiction, more like in the 80s and 90s. And again, top level stuff where you can just escape the world of today and get away into this different world where modern realities don't exist. That's something I like, escapism in a good fiction novel of any genre, and I found it here. So 2 thumbs up for The Return of the Knights. I can't wait to read more. Book 2 is currently in the translation process, so hopefully it won't be too long before we can read that, but don't rush. Don't rush that translator, Greg. I want this second book to read just as well as the first one did. So there you go. I definitely recommend The Return of the Knights. Check it out. You can find it in all the usual places. But that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.